selected pause for a second. Stop diverting yourself by scrolling. You are not here by accident. Every obstacle, uncertainty, and unforeseen circumstance that has led you to this point in your life was purposefully planned by God so that you are standing in front of this message at this very moment. If you have read this far, you are aware that it is not a mistake. Many people carry these signs in their own hands, and you may have already noticed the letter M engraved on their palm, or the crescent moon drawn in its lines. These are little things that many people miss, but to those who can see them, they are signs of something much bigger. You sense it deep down that something always told you that your life wouldn't be the same and that you weren't meant to take the same route as everyone else. And now your intuition has been validated because of the struggle. The weight of fear and uncertainty are all about to give way to a new reality, one of plenty. Purpose and clarity. Don't ignore this sign, because what you're about to learn could be the beginning of the biggest change in your life. I won't talk about working too hard, making endless sacrifices, or trying to fit in with what society expects. What I'm about to reveal goes far beyond that. You weren't chosen for something much greater. Most people spend their lives chasing something, a position, a status, or stability that never seems to be enough, and they struggle to fit into a system that wasn't designed for them, but you. God has called you to a different path. Your destiny has already been laid out. He didn't create you to follow the crowd, but to be a point of reference, someone who illuminates the way for others. You get the restless feeling that your life has a purpose that only you can fulfill. The answer is obvious. No. You were born for a purpose that only you can fulfill, and what you are about to discover will forever alter the way you view your life. If you want to continue receiving these revelations that will lead you on this journey, make sure to subscribe to the channel right away so you don't miss out on future content that might be exactly what you need to hear at the right time. The majority of people spend their entire lives looking for a job, a higher salary, a position that offers security, but that security always seems to elude them. They search endlessly for a place in the world like puzzle pieces that never quite fit together. But you have chosen. If you have the letter M or the crescent moon on your hand, know that God has selected you for something bigger. You are not here to seek, but to discover. One was not created for this never-ending race. God is not telling you to stop looking for work or to be idle. Rather, He is telling you to stop pursuing things that are not yours. Many people mistakenly think that their worth is derived from their position in the work they do to make ends meet. But God tells you that you are not your job, but rather your purpose. And that purpose is distinct, just like the signs He left for you. God's plan for your life was written before you were even born, and it connects with your talents, passions, and soul. Giving up the seeking attitude and adopting the discovery mentality is necessary to find this purpose. The dread of running out of things overwhelms seekers constantly, but those who find it pause, pay attention, and allow themselves to be led. Searching for a career entails attempting to fit into a system that frequently disregards your true self. On the other hand, finding your purpose entails lining up with what God has already planned for you. The answers are not outside of you. Rather, they are inside of you, and you have not been abandoned. Many people live their lives ignoring these signs because they are trapped in a system that teaches them to seek stability rather than purpose. But the chosen ones experience this restlessness within themselves. What do you do easily? What comes naturally to you? Your gifts are not accidental. They are divine tools for your mission. More than that, God will never ask you to follow a path that is not yours when you are in alignment with your purpose. The appropriate doors open with ease. This does not imply that things will be simple, but it does imply that you will feel at ease and confident as you proceed in the correct path. Finding your purpose is trusting the process and letting God lead you through each step, every interaction, every opportunity, and not having all the answers at once. The world teaches us to pursue stability since everything is a part of a larger purpose that is becoming clear to you. A stable job, a fixed salary, and a predictable plan are common traps that people cling to throughout their lives, promising security but actually limiting their dreams and true selves. However, God didn't create you to live in constant fear of the future. You were meant to thrive, not survive, because they have a higher. Calling within themselves, the chosen don't follow the crowd's route and don't fit into the laws made by men. God teaches you something different from what the world teaches, which is that you must struggle for what you want and give up your tranquility in order to accomplish your goals. Don't get caught up in the delusion that a job or a salary defines your life, because I am your shepherd and you will never lack anything. This means that when you walk in the purpose God has set for you, you won't have to chase after what isn't yours, because abundance comes from obedience to the divine plan rather than from human effort. When you align yourself with this plan, doors open, opportunities arise, and everything you need arrives at the right time. Your worth comes from the purpose God has called you to, not from your work. The world uses numbers to gauge riches. The amount of money in the bank account, the size of the house, and the number of acquired possessions are all important, but God's fullness surpasses all of that. Depending on circumstances, time, and effort, God's wealth is limitless and shows up as serenity, wisdom, connections, and fulfillment rather than just financial goods. Imagine that money is like a well of water that you constantly fill and empty out of fear that it will run out. But God's abundance is like a spring that never runs dry, no matter how much you drink. When you walk in accordance with God's plan, abundance comes to you. It's not about having more money. Rather, it's about living without the constant worry that you won't have enough. God doesn't want you to live in a state of fear of scarcity. Instead, He wants you to trust that everything you need will be provided at the appropriate time. The question is not how much you have, but how you live. God speaks to you constantly, but do you listen? The world's busyness makes many people deaf to this voice. The stress of daily anxiety about the future and the constant pursuit of security all contribute to noise and make it impossible for the divine message to be heard. But those who pause to listen are able to perceive something that others miss. God's voice doesn't come in a grand or obvious way. Instead, it manifests itself in subtle details, intuitions, and signs that are missed by those who are distracted. God already knows the answers. If you want to connect with your inner purpose, you must learn how to create that place where you can turn inside and disconnect from the outer noise. The issue is not that God doesn't speak. Rather, it is that most people don't know how to mute the world so that they may listen. It is no accident that God speaks via your gifts, your greatest passions, the things that make your heart sing, and the things that bring you serenity and meaning. Finding your purpose is not something abstract. The signs are already there. You just need to learn to notice them. It's a calling, and when you learn to listen, your journey becomes clearer, and answers that seemed distant start to appear naturally. So start now. Take some time to reflect, pray, and connect with that voice that has been trying to guide you for a long time. Asking the proper questions of yourself is one of the best methods to discover your calling. Think deeply about what makes you feel alive, what ignites your enthusiasm, and what causes you to lose track of time while you're doing it. These are not just preferences, they are signs of what God has placed in you. What do you do easily? What seems difficult to others but comes naturally to you? These things are not accidental. Rather, they are divine gifts placed in your hands for a greater purpose. When do you feel most connected to God? The moments when you feel fulfilled and purposeful are not random. They are unmistakable indicators that you are headed in the right direction. If money were no object, what would you devote your life to? Your purpose is not directly related to money or status, but rather to what makes you feel complete. If financial concerns didn't exist, what would your mission be? What do people frequently say you do well? Others see things in us that we can't see on our own. From a young age, we are taught to fit in with society, which imposes norms, expectations, and predetermined routes that you must follow. These questions are not merely exercises, they are portals to a profound discovery of who you truly are and what God intends for your life. Obtain a steady job, follow a script that has been created for the major, but what if that's not your path? What if you've been called to something different? The chosen ones never fit in completely. There's always a feeling that something doesn't make sense, that there's something bigger waiting to be discovered. And the truth is that God didn't create you to conform, but to transform. Trying to fit in with what the world imposes means giving up your true essence. It means stifling the call that God has placed within you. When you stop trying to fit in and start accepting who you really are, something powerful happens. You free yourself from the expectations of others. You stop living in fear of judgment and start walking with purpose. Your mission is not to be accepted by the world. Your mission is to follow the path that God has laid out for you. And when you do, that answers begin to emerge. The right doors open and clarity takes the place of doubt, so stop trying to fit in where you don't belong. Many people live stuck in a meaningless routine, following a path that wasn't made for them. But when you discover and accept God's purpose for your life, everything changes. Living in harmony with God entails having clarity about your decisions, even if you don't know all the details of the future. Your decisions are guided by faith rather than fear, and you no longer live in scarcity, but rather in the knowledge that everything you need will be provided at the right time. This doesn't mean that life will always be easy, but it does mean that even in the face of difficulties, you will know that you are on the right path when you walk in the purpose that God has planned for you. The feeling of heaviness and uncertainty vanishes, and you realize that you are finally where you should be. Have you begun to align your life with your true? We learn to blend in with society from a young age, which sets rules, expectations, and predetermined courses of study. Obtain a steady job, adhere to a script designed for the majority, but what if it isn't your route? The truth is that God didn't create you to conform, but to transform. Trying to fit in with what the world imposes means giving up your true essence, which means stifling the call that God has placed within you. When you stop trying to fit in and start accepting who you really are, something powerful happens and you are freed from other people's expectations. What if you've been called to something different? The chosen ones never fit in completely. There's always a feeling that something doesn't make sense, that there's something bigger waiting to be discovered. Stop trying to fit in where you don't belong. Many people live in a meaningless routine and follow a path that wasn't meant for them. But when you find and accept God's purpose for your life, everything changes. Your mission is not to be accepted by the world. Rather, it is to follow the path that God has laid out for you. When you do that, answers start to emerge, the right doors open, and clarity replaces doubt. When you live in accordance with God, you will experience serenity on your path, even if you are unaware of every detail of the future. You will also have clarity regarding your decisions, because they are guided by faith rather than fear, and you will no longer live in scarcity, but rather in the knowledge that everything you need will be provided at the appropriate time. This does not imply that life will always be easy, but it does mean that even in the face of difficulties, you will know that you are on the right path. When you walk in the purpose that God has predetermined for you, the sense of burden and uncertainty vanishes, and you feel as though you are at last where you should be. Have you begun to align your life with your calling?